The Virtual Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 44. Let's go.
Bring the energy. Bring the smelling salts. Bring everything we got to have because we are doing the Eastern Conference.
About time.
I'm excited. I'm always excited, though. Tell me, Vince,
Yeah, I'm listening.
how was your weekend?
Not so bad. A little tired, but not so bad.
Well, that's because you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Three boys, not 3 kids, 3 boys.
3 boys.
Yeah.
3 boys. Junior?
It was a good weekend.
All right.
It was a good week. It was a good week.
So we're ending it on a high.
Besides the flooding and everything, mind you, I didn't get flooded, so
Yeah,
I
luckily
got
for
very
us.
lucky. I know a lot of people that had it really bad.
Yeah.
Hearts go out to them and the amount of work that they have in front of them to try to get that all back to normal.
And
Thank God for insurance. Let's just put it that way.
and how all the insurances were all on vacation this particular night.
Oh my gosh.
It was that's a lot of rain. We haven't seen that kind of rain in a while here in Montreal.
We've got a problem in Montreal when we flood like that for 2
Absolutely.
years in a row, so
I think one of the worst built cities, anyways,
oh my God.
in the world.
Surrounded by water.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
can't handle a big rainstorm.
Snow we do
figure.
very well.
Yeah.
We do snow very well,
Actually, we do.
but rain we can't do at all. Happy birthday to my wife, who is the reason.
Ooh.
Yeah, she is turning
Brownie points.
37.
You just lost every single
you just
brownie
lost
point you had.
No. I know she's turning 37.
Oh, she's a young 18.
She's the reason we're able to do this podcast, because if our wives didn't support us in this endeavor, we'd never be out here.
What are you talking about? My wife doesn't even know I'm here. She thinks I went to bring out the garbage.
You do it every Sunday for hours.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh, man. Anything else? Helinka Gretzky tournament started and finished.
I wish I would have followed it a little bit more. Which I did not. But there's a couple of players that stood out.
We're going to go back in time when Vince told you guys, watch out for the kid Schaefer on defense. He will be picked top 5 in the 2025 draft. No
Which is the
questions
next
asked.
draft, right?
Yeah. Then there's Gavin McKenna, who's going to go first in 2026, who also had. But in the 2025 draft, Team Canada, because that's the team I was looking at. Schaefer, Desaulniers too, had a decent tournament. So we'll see.
Canada won gold.
Yeah.
We failed to mention it there, but yeah. they
Canada
won.
gold, Czech silver. Sweden or US bronze?
Good question.
Gotta check it out.
You're asking questions about people that haven't watched it, but we're
Bum, bum, bum.
going to watch it, and we probably intentions are everything. Okay.
All right. Shall we?
And actually, we will have episodes in the near future where we kind of go back and look at all that. And
as soon as we're done the previews, basically.
yeah, we just need to concentrate on the previews for now, but we will have episodes dedicated to 2025 draft, episodes dedicated to rookie camps, preseason. There's going to be a few nice episodes coming up.
A lot of content still to come, for sure.
And some guests as well.
Yes. Okay, speaking of preview, before we go on with the beginning of the Metropolitan Division,
We are doing the Metro.
let's projected standings of the Pacific.
All right.
Who wants to go first?
I will go first because I'm the last one to actually do my standings. I'm going to say Edmonton continues from their strong off-season and strong playoff run to finish first in the Pacific. They're going to be followed up by last year's first finisher, which was Vancouver. And then I have Vegas, LA, Seattle, Calgary 6th. Unfortunately, I'm not sure. They do have the ability to pass Seattle for 5th, but it's going to be maybe a battle for that wild card. Maybe not making it. Not sure. And then I have Anaheim, San Jose, bringing up the rears.
I think they'll be pretty similar, but here we go. Vince?
I have the exact same thing for Nick, except I swapped Calgary, Seattle. I have Calgary,
You have Calgary ahead of Seattle.
at 5 and Seattle at 6.
Are we hanging out too much together?
No, it's just I think this is one of the easiest ones to rank.
So Edmonton first, though, in your opinion?
Yeah, of course. I don't think Vancouver. I think Vancouver will be good, but I don't think they could do what they did last year. Especially the reason they finished first last year was the great beginning of the season that they had. So I feel Edmonton had an awful season beginning of the season. So and Edmonton, I like what they did in the off season. So yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, obviously, I'm a bit off the board.
No, okay.
The top three are the same.
So you have Edmonton.
Edmonton as
first,
first, Vancouver as second, Vegas as third. I have Seattle at 4. I like the addition of Montour for them. I like the fact that Wright is coming up and showed that he can play in the NHL. He'll give them that extra depth they need on offense. Goaltending scared me a little bit. I just think LA takes a step back this year. I don't like their goaltending situation, even though you don't have to be great to be a goalie in LA. I just don't know how long they could sustain not having as much offense as. So I have Seattle at 4, LA at 5. Like I've mentioned previously, I think Anaheim takes a step forward. So they go to 6, Calgary at 7, San Jose at 8. So Edmonton, Vancouver, Vegas.
Wow, Calgary that low.
Yeah, Seattle, LA, Anaheim, Calgary, San Jose. Calgary's in a rebuild. I don't see... I mean, if Calgary finishes ahead of Anaheim and Calgary's starting a rebuild and Anaheim is supposed to be getting out of one, then Anaheim is in real trouble. But
Well,
I think they'll take a step forward.
Anaheim's really young.
Yeah. And I don't think Calgary's
Really
in a
young still.
rebuild. I think Calgary's in a retooling. You can't be in a rebuild with players like Kadri, Huberdeau on the team.
I'll tell you
but
what
those
scares me.
that's tough to get rid of. Huberdeau, you're not going to get rid
Yeah,
of.
but I still think they're in a retool, not a rebuild.
I think Calgary.
And Wolf as a rookie goalie, too. Sorry.
Anyways, you just ruined everything I was going to say. So,
Go, Nick.
all right, let's start with our. Let's start. Like you just have to keep throwing things in there.
Yeah,
right?
but what about...
But what about this? All right. Carolina is the first team that we're going to start with in the not Pacific Division. That needs to be updated to the Metro Division. Carolina is our first team in the Metro. 52 wins. I'll start if you guys don't mind.
No, go ahead.
52
Oh,
wins.
you kind of just took the lead anyway.
Junior
Well,
kind of
I mean-
interrupted you 6 times, so go ahead.
You know what? Before you came, Vince, he used to interrupt me 10 times.
Yeah, exactly.
In one sentence. Now it's only 6. You do the other 4.
Should we count how many times I interrupt you instead of Vince's listens this time?
You go, Nick.
Are you ever going to get Carolina done or what?
52 wins, 30 losses. We don't count overtime losses on this podcast as they are worthless. Last year's power play ranking, they were second in the NHL with 26.9. Just goes to show what kind of well-coached team this team is. Who's in, who's out? Well, they brought in Jack Roslovich, William Carrier, Sean Walker, Shane Gostisbehere. Who did they lose? They lost Jake Gensel. They lost Noason, Brady Shea, and Brett Pesce. Couple of big names there on defense. 2 top 4 defensemen gone right there.
And a top line player.
And a top line player. The only thing is Jake Gensel wasn't there the whole year.
Yeah.
And they were still a very, very good team. So take that with a grain of salt, but it would have been nice if Jake Gensel had stayed. And the first person that would have benefited from that is the first person that we have on our tier list. So we have nobody on tier 1, which is 91 plus points. Mm-hmm. But we do have somebody on tier 2, which is 80 to 90 points. And that is Sebastian Aho, the best player on this team.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Junior.
I think that's a perfect fit. Last 80 to 90 points. Last year, in 78 games, he had 89 points, 36 goals, 53 assists. He's 3 consecutive years, 35 goals or more. 36, 36, and 37. relatively healthy, 75 plus games played in the last 3 years. Shots on goal over 200, shooting percentage consistent in the last 3 years at 16.5. So like as he's entering his prime, his numbers are staying consistent. So for me, 80 to 90. Would I be surprised if he goes to 91? Yeah, no. But I just don't think there's enough offense around him to like give him that extra 4 to 5 points to get there.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go. I could have seen him in the 91 plus, but I feel he lost too much around him. Taravainen, Gensel midseason, he lost him. So I feel
In the offseason, you mean?
yeah, exactly. So I feel like he's not as well surrounded offensively as he was last year. So that's why I feel he's gonna not take a dip, because 89 points is 89 points. We still have him in that area. I feel it's gonna be more in the lower 80s, so a point per game probably, like in the 82s that he's gonna get. But I would have put him 91 and plus, but I just feel he lost way too much offense around him.
I think
I'll tell you what. I think that if Gensel would have stayed, I think I would have put him in the 91 plus.
Yeah. Agreed.
100%.
That's enough to give him that 4 or 5 extra points that he needs to get there.
He was on pace for 94 last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what did he lose? Yes, he lost Taravainen, who was a running mate of his. But I still think the young guys that are coming up, the Jarvises, the Svechnikov, which we'll talk about.
Nadeau might make
Nekash is still there.
Nadeau might make his debut.
Nadeau might make his debut, I doubt, on the first line.
No.
But still, there's enough there for him to continue his current pacing, I'll say, which is the 80 to 90 points and closer to the 90 probably. Just to give you guys an idea, he's been a point per game player on average for his entire career, right? He's at 0.93 for his entire career, 1.02 points per game in his last 3 years, which is the 3 years that you really want to look at, right?
Yeah.
I don't see much change in Sebastian Aho. He's still a player that you're going to go grab as a point per game player at a floor, I think. He only had 1 year really where he didn't have that well, and that was the previous year. He still had 36 goals. I mean, hard to say anything bad about Sebastian Aho.
Yeah. No, he's the star of this team. So
Second rounder, by the way.
yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember that draft.
The
but I do.
only legit center they have, if you don't count Nekash as a center.
No, well, Nekash will play center with
He'll have no choice, or else down the middle, wow, it's weak.
Yeah.
Next player, between the tier 3, which is 70 to 79 points. That's how our tiers work. So tier 1 is 91 plus, tier 2 is 80 to 90, tier 3 is 70 to 79 points. We have one player in this tier, and maybe two eventually, but number 1, Andrei Svechnikov. Guys, what do we think about this guy? Because we wait for the breakout every single year. When is Svechnikov going to be that 70 to 80 point player? Sorry, not 70, 80 point player. And he never seems to have actually developed into that.
Well, when he can stay healthy. I think his biggest issue is staying healthy. Last year, 59 games, 52 points, so he could have been on pace for that, high
72.
72 like points. But he needs to stay healthy. He's 24. He hasn't hit his prime yet. He's a big boy, 6'2". It's like we're not talking about forward who's 5'11", who it's easier for him to get injured. So I just feel he hasn't played 2021, 2022. He played 78 games. After that, it came to 64 and now 59. So I feel he could become a point per game player.
A little bit of a loose leaf paper?
I'm not there yet. I just feel coming into this league, his identity was goal scorer.
Yes.
30 to 40 goal scorer.
I mean, we expected him to reach 40
like
at one point, and he might still.
Yeah, 2021, 2022, he hit 30 goals. But after that, it's 23-19. But he couldn't stay healthy. So I feel if his goal production goes up, which should go this year because there's not much competition around him. There's Seth Jarvis, but that's about it. So I feel if he stays healthy, he could push into the next tier. But I'm not convinced he can stay healthy for 82 games.
look, there's always going to be that season he does stay healthy for 82 games, right? They don't just consistently stay injured, but they're usually more injured than not. He was Sebastian Aho's most consistent line mate last
when he was
year.
healthy.
Yeah, when he was healthy.
Yeah.
And so if he could stay healthy, he could push that point per game. I don't see why not. But the reality is, when you do projections, you can't just go on a limb and say, no, this is the year he's going to be healthy. You just can't do that.
You can't predict health.
You can't.
No.
And if history tells you he's going to get injured, then you have to project he'll get injured to a certain extent.
Staying healthy is a skill.
It's a
We've
skill.
spoken about availability is a skill.
Does he have the talent and the tools to be a point per game player? Absolutely. If he plays a full 82 games, I expect him to be a 82-point player. But I don't foresee that, so I agree. I like him where he is, and I wonder what happens with the power play.
It will not be second overall.
Second overall power play last year. Does that go down? How does that affect their...
Well, what did they lose from their power play?
Well, in the last quarter, they lost Gensel. Other than that, it should
Last
remain
quarter.
the same. Yeah.
Shea was there, but not. But they replaced him with Shane Gottsberg, who is a power play specialist.
So maybe tit for tat?
But I think some people overachieved. Like the next player we're talking about, I think he overachieved.
Okay, so let's
Alright,
move
let's
on to
move
that
on.
next player then. Tier 4 is our next tier, which is 60 to 69 points. And Seth Jarvis is the first person that we have listed here. Now, Seth Jarvis is, Vince just said that his opinion, Seth Jarvis overachieved, but he's a highly touted prospect. He is supposed to be a very, very good player.
Yes, but a shooting percentage of 18.8, that's not sustainable. And he played 81 games last year, 67 points, 33 goals, 34 assists. So I see, unless he's going to take more shots than last year, but he's been at 187 shots, 176 shots last year. It's I think this is last year. I feel it was his breakout year, but teams will adjust to his game play. So I don't think he'll get more. I think he's in the right tier, but I don't see him hitting 33 goals next year.
Junior?
I think we have him at the right spot. As he develops and gets experience, can he go to the next tier? Maybe. I honestly, I didn't think he'd be close to a 35 goal scorer when he was drafted or coming into the league. So seeing him at 33 goals is a bit surprising this early in his career, especially on a team that supposedly doesn't score much. I think like Vince said, he's in that range of, look, even if his shooting percentage dips to, let's say, 14%, does he lose maybe a couple of goals? But still, he went from 14 goals to 33. That's a massive jump. I do think he could be a 25-goal scorer, 25, 40, 65 points. I think that's what I project for him.
So, sorry,
that's it. I'm done. That was it.
I was just going to say, guys, what's the biggest difference in his production? Well, it's his ice time. Mm-hmm. He went from 13.52 in his rookie year to 16.12 in the following year to 18.45 and 62% of the power play for the first time in his career. He had 13 power play goals. He had 20 power play points in total. The majority of his increase is due to opportunity. Yes, his shooting percentage is a bit high, but the difference between that and his career average wouldn't necessarily affect him more than about 4 goals, 5 goals at max, let's say. So, and he's a young player that's still developing. So if he continues that trajectory, I think we're looking at 70 to 79 points next year.
I'll take Cole Caulfield as an example. The first year he came on the power play, he was lights out, scoring goals. What happened after? Teams adjusted, right? So it's going to be the same thing here, especially that who else is going to be on that power play that's going to be effective? So
I think it's going to depend on Sveshnikov staying healthy and developing a significant role on that power play. Because, like you said with Caulfield, everybody knew it was going to Caulfield. Now Suzuki comes off the blue line, that's an option. Now with Slavkovsky there, it's an option. Matheson was creating an option.
Doc, yeah. But that's what I'm saying. It's like
they still had the second best power play.
Yeah, but I feel they also had the fourth best goals against. Do you guys see this team as the fourth best goals against
with the loss of Pesce and Shea?
Yeah. We'll get to that with the goalies too later, but
I don't know about that.
Speaking of just like one more team stat that goes, I think, underappreciated, not noticed, because I mean we kind of already mentioned they don't score a lot, but they were 8th in the league at 3.38 goals per game.
Yeah,
8th in the league.
Do you remember
for a team that supposedly plays a defensive system? That's
for such a long time. We've said that Carolina's Rob Brendamore system is so defensive that it's not worth having some of these players. But if you look at just the stats, they finished top 10 in the league in goals.
I wouldn't call the New York Islanders had a defensive system. I would call the Carolina system a well-structured system where players bought into what the coach is selling. But now the problem is they lost key players on defense. And
they were about to lose another one. So I'm going to segue this into the next player because we will talk about defense a little bit later.
Go ahead.
Martin Necas. He was on the trade block. He was very out there. Everybody knew that he was available. They just didn't get the offer that they were looking for. And so they ended up signing him to a contract. So, Junior, what do you think about Necas this year? Is he going to be one of those pouting faces, doesn't want to be there anymore? Or are we looking at somebody that's going to go out there and prove that he belongs?
No, I think they have no choice to give him an opportunity. Not that they haven't given him one, but I'm saying they don't just sign him to 2 years and then say, too bad you didn't want to be here or whatever. Like, they need Necas to be a playoff team. If he doesn't perform
after losing Gensel
and as potentially your number 2 center, they need him. They have to give him the tools and the opportunity to succeed. Then it's up to him, of course. So, look, I think he's easily a 25 goal scorer, similar to Jarvis. I think they're very similar in the stats, projecting like between 60 and 70 points. That's where they live. I think Necas could maybe score a bit more goals than Jarvis, but again, I see him between the 60 like 65 point pace is what I like for him, pushing 70. But like I want to see him with a legitimate role at number 2 center and see what.
Do you think he's going to play number 2 center?
I don't. Who else will?
Well, they spoke highly of Jack Drury coming in this year. They've signed Kotkaniemi like a second line center, but he's been in the doghouse.
I think
think
Roslovic has a better chance of getting second line centerman than KK.
But Roslovic hasn't been a good center in the NHL.
Guys, this team worries me.
Their bottom, like Jordan Staal is a solid player, but at his age right now, you're not expecting him to be a top 6. So there's clearly a little bit of top heavy going on because you could say 4 players right away are on the power play: Necas, Jarvis, Aho, Svechnikov.
But you see, Nick, sorry, that's the difference for Necas. And that's why I think Necas could hit the 70 to 79 points. It's because he's going to get power play 1.
So will Jarvis.
Yes, I know, but
Jarvis already had, though, I think, last year.
Jarvis always
that's why he got his 30-something goals.
But Necas didn't. Necas was on power play 2 last year.
Oh, okay.
Because it was Gensel. So I feel that's where Necas is going to get his Netches, or whatever the way we say his name, is where he's going to get his points. But this Carolina team worries me a lot.
There's a lot of change. A lot of change for a team that's well structured. It's a lot of change. There's a lot of new faces. It's hard stuff.
I'm not going to lie. Once we do the standings, for me, they're out of the playoffs. They're the Eastern team that comes out of the playoffs.
Wow, that's huge. That's a big difference.
Yeah. That's a massive statement.
That's a little bit of...
Because I'm also not convinced with their goalies.
Well, okay, let's not jump all the way.
No,
Let's
but
not
I'm just
jump.
saying, once we
This guy
get
jumped
there,
to defense first. Now he's trying to jump to.
out, ladies
There's structure in this podcast.
You know, we talk of Carolina.
it's the perfect segue. Goalkeepers. What's the next thing we have to talk about? Goalkeepers.
No, we're not finished with Nekash yet.
Guys, I just want to add one thing about Nekash, if I may, or Natchez.
Yeah. I haven't even provided my take yet.
Like his most consistent line mate has been like last year was like Kuznetsov or Jack Jury. You know, look, I like those guys and all, but like he's not playing with an Aho or Sveshnikov, or you know what I'm saying. So even just playing with Jarvis could help. So
Okay.
I look forward to see how they're going to deploy him, because that's going to determine how well he'll do as well.
To Vince's point, Nekash only had 44% of the power play time last year. That's a drop from the 60% that he had the year before,
Where he had 71 points.
where he had 71 points. So we know Nekash is an offense-first player. We know he doesn't fit that well in the structure that Rob Brendamore has, which is the reason they were looking for a trade partner. But fact remains, they need him, and they need him badly. This player had a point pace of only 0.69 last year, which is a 56-point pace. Not very high. The year before that, though, he had the 71-point pace. Actually, he had 71 points because he played all 82 games. And he had power play one time. That's where I see that he might return. He might hit that power play one time again, and because he hits that, it's going to propel him to the tier 3 as opposed to tier 4 that we currently have him at. Very talented player.
Agreed.
Very talented player. And unfortunately, they were asking too much for some teams to go out and get him. But with right? I mean, it makes sense why
It
they were
seemed like
asking.
they wanted like a star for a star, but
Yeah. Well,
what do they consider a star? I mean, I don't know if Natchez did enough to say he's a star. He's got
He's
potential for sure.
yeah, only one 71-point pace, right? Or 71 points in his career. All right, we'll talk about...
Bruno?
We don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. Yeah, we're a bunch of
Nick,
fathers here.
How about you talk about the power play D-man?
Yeah, I was thinking of just
We'll go-
transitioning straight into
We'll
there.
go power play D-man, then we'll go into their goalies.
So,
Hey, watch it, man.
are you going to play with your mic again the way you were playing before?
I was rubbing the mic, so it could be nice.
Did you take some pills before? The power play runs through...
Yeah.
I'm not sure anymore because you know what? Last year, Shea had a lot of the power play time, even though
Yeah.
Burns was there. I think Burns is their power play one usually,
To start the season,
but
he will
he
be there.
kind of took a step back last year, and that was the year that I traded him away with retention because of the fact that I knew that he was not going to be the Burns of old. Now, Burns is a physical specimen. This guy, if you've seen, and I'm not talking about his beard.
What
If
are
you've
you
seen
talking
this guy's
about?
regiment, you just rub your mic there.
And Nick lost his train of thought.
You always manage to interrupt me, Junior. Burns kind of took a step back last year. I think that Burns is going to continue that step back, but not dramatically. Just not the power play one demon that we're used to. And Gossespear, if he's good at anything, it's power play.
He's a specialist in that.
That's all he does.
29 points on the power play with the Detroit Red Wings last year. Put him on the second best power play team.
And Detroit
Detroit
didn't
was
have
top 10 as well, I think, in the power play. They are one of the
and
better
part of
power-
that was Gossespear, though. I mean, we can't
If
say
I
it
had
wasn't.
to decide today who's going to be the number one power play guy, I think they're going to give it to Gus Despair.
So last year, Burns was power play 55% of the time. And he finished with 20 power play points, 4 power play goals, but only 43 points in 82 games. One thing that's amazing about Burns, though, is that he's consistently 82 game player.
But his
Unbelievable.
age is catching up to him. He can't play the minutes that he was playing.
He played 21 minutes last year, 23 the year before that, 26 the year before that,
And the year before that.
and the year before
And
that.
the problem is that if his minutes go down,
His point pace will probably
But who
diminish.
was there to replace those minutes? They lost both
Yeah.
defensemen.
They
that were
replaced
there.
them with Sean Walker and Augustus Bear.
Look, Orlov last year played number 5 defensive minutes. Orlov is better than a number 5 defenseman.
You're going to see him move up.
You're
That's
going to
for
see
sure.
him move up with
Yeah.
Sean Walker taking some of those Shea minutes as well.
Yeah.
But I think the Burns minutes,
It still hurts though. It's still there. That offseason still hurts a bit.
the Burns minutes, what they'll do is maybe they'll play him more as a 5-on-5 structured defenseman and give Augustus Bear the power play.
Look, eventually
Because
in the
Augustus
cap,
Bear is not that structured defensive player.
correct. In the cap era, you can't maintain your team forever.
No.
And Carolina kind of knew that it was coming.
Well, they tried. They thought they had Gensel, right? And then last minute he took a right turn and went
Yeah.
to Tampa Bay
Well,
instead.
it explains the contract they give to Orlov. Now it makes more sense to give him that kind of money because you knew you were losing both Shea and.
I think this team is in trouble.
Well, look, the fans of
PK
Carolina aren't as worried as you are. The fans of Carolina still have them ranked as in confidence meter, according to Dom's recent poll that he sends out to all fans. And it's good because it gives you a gauge. Okay?
Yeah, of course.
Basically, they're still top 8. They're 8th place from last year in confidence that the fans have of their team. And the year before that, they were 8th as well. So they haven't changed at all. Even their stats between public and fan base aren't that different. So there's still confidence there in the market.
Yeah, they could be confident, but you also have to be realistic.
Look, it doesn't help that they're in a very competitive division, eh?
No, you have to be realistic. All right, let's move on to the goalie tandems.
Watch me be realistic, my friend.
We have Kochekov, save percentage 911, goals against average 2.33, and a goal save above expected at 48 in the league. Following him, somebody that came back from injury, only played 16 games, was Frederick Anderson.
We'll get injured. again this year.
932 save percentage, 1.40. I mean, when he came back, he was on fire, guys. 1.84 save goals
Ridiculous.
against average. But he only played 16 games, so we can't really take that with too much grain of salt. Don't take it with too much of a grain of salt, or I don't know how. I'm ruining that whole thing. But those are the two goalies. Junior, what do you think about the goalies?
Guys, if Anderson could just stay healthy, like in the last 3 years, 16 games played, like you said, 184 goals against average, 932 save percentage. The year before that, 2.48 goals against average, 903 save percentage. The year before, 217, 922. Like, those are legit numbers with the Carolina Hurricanes. So he's definitely the number one, I think, before Kochetkov. I think Anderson gets first dibs, even though I do think it'll be a 50-50 split. But
So you're saying 1A, 1B.
yeah, at least for next season, at least for one more season. And Kochetkov just has to show that he can be consistent because even him, he's like a bit like Binnington. He could go off the rails a bit. But statistically speaking, his numbers aren't that great, but they're not bad either for Kochetkov.
I think their defensemen made the goalies look better than they were. And once again, they've lost on their defensive system. Oh, there's Junior's hand. Wash your hands, Junior. Look how dirty they are.
The people on the listening podcast don't understand what you just said.
We were a little blurry, so Junior put his hand in front of the camera, and we're still a bit blurry, but it's okay. Focus. But yeah, listen, I think...
Oh, are we counting these
Oh,
listens?
it's the first one. I let it go. I even told myself, don't do it. Goals for 277, goals against 211. In their goal differential, they were second in the league. I don't see that happening. I think they've lost something defensively, which means they're going to... And the thing with the Brendan Moore structured system he plays, when they don't have the lead, the system doesn't work. So it's going to be, I feel, personally, it's going to be a very tough season for the Carolina Hurricanes.
I'm curious to see how it goes. I think there's still, I mean, if he's as good as he is as a coach and has such a great structure, then especially that they're a very analytical organization, like they're big time on advanced stats, I would assume the guys they went to get fit the structure they want to play and that would excel in a given situation. But again, I got to see it before I can say for sure it's going to be good. Sean Walker was not necessarily a bad addition.
As a number 4.
Look, he was a plus player on the Philadelphia Flyers as a number 4. He played some decent minutes in 1936.
Okay, let's move on. I have nothing really to say about the goalie tandem. I think that if Anderson stays healthy, it's a big boost for Carolina, and hopefully his injury woes are behind him. But I do see a little bit of a split to make sure Anderson stays fresh for the playoffs. They are a playoff team by far, so like we're talking about one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference by far. They're still one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. And they're so well done that, you know, that when they lose like the Walker contract and maybe lose a couple of guys on defense, well, they have a couple of prospects that are coming in that are absolutely phenomenal. We have the KHL star in Nikishin.
Who will come
next year.
No, I think he'll come this year, but towards the end of the season. Once
the KHL finishes?
Once the KHL is finished, I think they're going to bring him in right away.
Maybe. But for sure next season, because his contract is up and he has expressed, I think, that he wants to come to the NHL. Sure. So Nikishin is going to be a big one. They have Morrow as well, who is an offensive player, kind of in the mold of a Gostisbehere, maybe. We'll see. We'll see if he turns into that or maybe could play more two-way game. Bradley Nadeau is...
Who will get a chance this year.
He will get a chance this year. Even Blake, I'm thinking that he might have a chance or a cup of coffee this year. We'll see. And the list goes on. Carolina has such a good prospect system. Tamanov, Poirier, Franzen. We could keep naming names here, but I think that's what's going to save them.
In the future, yes.
Because they lost Pesce, they lost Shea. They replaced him with a couple of guys that could hold the fort for a little bit, but Nikishin is really going to make that difference. Morrow is probably going to make that difference.
Yeah. I'm not saying Carolina will... This is the downfall for Carolina. It's not going to be the downfall. I think this is the off year for Carolina. New Jersey last year, everybody was saying is going to take that next step, and it was an off year for them. Carolina, I feel this is the year where it's going to be an off year for them just because they did not replace the players they lost.
But to New Jersey's defense, which we'll get to later, they had a obvious hole that that the GM never fixed, and it was their downfall.
Yeah, but now
they don't have that hole. Their hole is on defense, so they have a goalie to bail them out. But
we're saying their hole is on defense. They still have Slavin. They still have Burns. They still have Orlov. Like we're still talking about a team that has a very good defense, even though they lost Pesce.
Because their defense was so elite.
It was deep.
It was so deep, so deep.
They each knew the role. And I feel the Pesce role and the Sage role is. And the thing is, New Jersey had, when we speak about New Jersey, we're going to see that they filled that hole, but that's the problem. I don't think Carolina filled the hole they have in defense.
All right.
So,
can I just add on one of the prospects on Nikishin?
Oh yeah, go ahead, please.
So just to really emphasize on how good this kid could be, the KHL doesn't play young players, especially not 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds. Spartak Moscow at 19 played him for 46 games. 2022-2023 played 65 games, 55 points. That is absolutely ridiculous.
That's in the men's league.
In the men's KHL league with SKA St. Petersburg. Last year, 67 games, 56 points. So back-to-back 50-plus point seasons in the KHL with men.
At age what? 21?
Now he's 22, so it was age 21. Plus 32 and a plus 19 the year before.
Well,
he's trusted, man. He's trusted. I'm telling you.
The plus is that's a very good team as well. But you're right. They don't usually play their rookies because at the end of the day, they have veterans in the NHL and the KHL that they want to appease, and they don't want guys that are going to leave. But this guy's
And
talent.
Usually with like 1 or 2 contract years left without an extension, they unless they have an extension, they don't like to play them. Look at Demidov
Yeah.
example. He's younger now than Nikishin, but he's like the 13 forward heading into training camp here.
I've tried, I think 3, you're going to laugh, 2 years ago, 2 full seasons ago, I went out on a limb and I grabbed Nikishin because I heard good things about him in every league that I possibly could. And I've held on to him on my bench, in my minors, or on my whatever, IR plus, whatever you want to call it. And, you know, I'm hoping that it's going to pay off
Can I
next year.
put you guys on the spot?
Yeah.
Wasn't there a trade negotiation between the two of you where you offered him Nikishin, but I don't remember who you were asking
The
for.
problem is that if you don't know who he is, you're not going to value him.
Well,
as
you
much.
had asked me, and I was like, eh. But then, upon further review, but I
Upon
don't
further
remember
review.
what the deal was. You guys were
Okay.
discussing.
Final thoughts and predictions.
Predictions for Carolina?
Yes.
Or predictions for the players?
No, I mean, what are your final thoughts on Carolina as a
think,
whole?
I think Carolina had a terrible offseason, and I think it will show this year in the season.
I think they're just too well structured. The way they do things, just they get the right people to fill the right holes. Do I think they take us a little bit of a step back? Yeah, I don't think they're the best team in the division, but I still think they're a playoff team.
I agree more with Junior in that sense. Yes, they did lose. And Dom agrees with that. 28th overall in off-season moves, according to his model. And you know what? Gensel hole not filled is the right thing to write there because Nick Cash on that second line is like the lone person that could actually hit 70 points. And they don't seem to, like Bradley Nadeau. I love Bradley Nadeau as a prospect. He hasn't done it enough in the NHL to say this year is going to be the year that he hits 70 points.
No.
Right? I mean,
I feel their forward line, they're going to have to move around. They won't be able to do the Jarvis, Aho, Svechnikov, and then leave Nekash on an island on line 2.
I don't think
you
they
need
could.
duos there.
Yeah,
you need duos.
I
I don't think they
go
could
more
go
for duos.
another season with 50 games of Zveshnikov.
No.
He has to stay healthy.
Yeah, he has to stay.
That's going to play a big role.
Next team.
All right, who wants to do Columbus?
I'll do well since, they're at the bottom of the barrel. Next team is Columbus Blue Jackets. Last year's standings, 27 wins, 43 losses. Power play, 31st. So there was only one team that was worse than them at 15.1%. Who's in for Columbus? Sean Monahan, Jack Johnson. Who's out? Alexander Nylander, Alexander Tetsier, and Adam Boyquist. We do not have any players in Tier 1 or in Tier 2. In Tier 3, from the between 70 and 79 points, we have one player, which might be a push, but we'll put him there anyways. Johnny Gaudreau. Do you guys believe he can have a bounce back season and hit that 70 to 79?
So it's your team, so you tell us who goes first.
Nick, you go first.
Okay, Nick, you go first.
Okay, Junior, you go first. No.
All right. So you want me? I'll go first. I don't care.
Go ahead.
All right. So last year, Gojo had in 81 games played. So for a small guy, he's still a pretty relatively healthy player. Like Nick said, it's a skill. In the last 3 seasons, 81 games played, 80 games played in 82. Lousy, and I'll be honest, it was a very lousy 12 goals last year and 48 assists in his second season with Columbus. So that makes it a little bit more worrisome, if you ask me. Still finished with 60 points. It's not to say he doesn't have a lot of talent around him. He just has a lot of young talent around him. And they're still very raw. And I don't think Gojo is like a Patrick Kane where he really makes the guys around him better. Like he does, but not to the extent of Patrick Kane. If you guys catch my drift.
He's not as good as Patrick Kane.
He's definitely not as good as Patrick
Not
Kane.
in his prime, anyways.
Not
But
even close.
Patrick Kane has that ability as he was getting older to he was losing goals, but he was able to
Make
to
other
set
players
up
better.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, So I think Johnny Gojo lacks that, or he hasn't learned how to do that yet. But they have a good nucleus around. Do I expect him to be a 60-point player next year? Yeah. I think the point per game for Gojo is over.
I think that all depends on how big of a step Fantilli takes. Because Goudreau's main job is not scoring 40 goals, although he has done that once in the past.
Mm-hmm.
His main job is setting up other people. And if he's playing with an elite sniper, like I guess the idea was Patrick Laine would have been his elite sniper, but they didn't mesh well. They didn't mesh well. And on the primary points that Laine got, they weren't from Goudreau, even though Goudreau is the setup man on that line. I think there's a couple of things happening here because in the offseason, you mentioned they brought in Monahan, right? Monahan and Goudreau, years together in Calgary, best friends in Calgary, right? So you're bringing in a guy that's going to appease Goudreau. I see a bounce back season for Goudreau here. And the bounce back season is between that 70 to 80 point pace, in my opinion. Now, does that mean Monahan is going to be putting in the goals? Not necessarily, right? You still need that sniper on Columbus. And I think Columbus is actually, contrary to your belief, I think Columbus is a very interesting team this year. Not in the sense of they're going to have a lot of superstar players necessarily, but who takes that role on the top line playing with Goudreau? Because it doesn't look like it's going to be Patrick Laine.
From a development standpoint,
Because
very
there's trade
intriguing.
rumors there, right? Fantilli is an absolute superstar, but he might not be playing with Goudreau if they put Monahan with Goudreau. Marchenko had a great year, right? Chinnikov is another star. Voronkov played very well last year. Like there's opportunity here for people to be the goal scorer on Goudreau's line. And with Monahan there as a savvy veteran, I think that's going to be really cool to kind of see Columbus play next year, reuniting the old crew. You know,
They have a lot of young pieces. I think it'll be a fun team to watch from a development standpoint, right? But
so that's why I agree with the tier. By the way, with 70 to 79 points for Goudreau. That's why I say he could reach there.
I say bringing in Sean Monahan is a really dart throw that they'll be able to recreate what they recreated in Calgary. What they had in Calgary, Sean Monahan was at 100% health, where now we can all know he's maybe at 60-70% of his power. I feel
He played 83 games last year.
no, he'll play the games, but he can't bring out he can't bring out the same talent he had when he played with Goudreau in Calgary. Right?
Yeah, no, I'm not expecting prime Monahan.
See, what I'm expecting from Columbus, especially with a coach like Torts, is is Torts there?
no,
Torts is in Philly.
no.
Sorry,
actually they have a new coach.
they have a new coach also
Well, actually,
because that was another rift that he had with Pascal Vincent. So
a very good coach, by the way. They brought in. I mean, I shouldn't say
it
that.
was a shit situation they brought him in because it was supposed to be Babcock, then the whole Babcock situation came along, and he was thrown to the wolves and kind of
Dean Evison is the coach.
So Dean Evison, if you guys remember, Dean Evison had.
Dallas. No, was he with Dallas?
Now you're confusing me.
No, I don't think so.
I remember Dean Evison was with
Anaheim.
Minnesota,
Oh, Minnesota.
and with Minnesota, he had phenomenal years, like regular seasons.
Yeah.
But he always fell short in the playoffs, which is the reason why they just didn't give him another chance. They fired him or didn't renew him, whatever it was. But Dean Evison, regular season coach, is a very good coach. So I give it a boost for Columbus this year to have a coach of his caliber come in, and I'm not saying Monahan's going to be an 80-point player. I'm not saying Goudreau's going to be an 80-point player, but at least 70 points, I see it happening.
I see the power play getting much better than 31st. I don't think they're going to finish 31st. I think they have too much talent on that team, especially if Patrick Laine is there. They have a quarterback in Werenski.
I don't think Laine's going to be there.
No, but even if he's not, they still have Chinnikov had a breakout year last year. Marchenkov too. It's a very young team. So at this point, I don't think by the time this team is ready to take that next step, I think Goudreau will not be relevant in this team.
So let's continue with Monahan, because Monahan, it was our tier 4 player, and we have him between 60 to 69 points. I think that's actually very fair.
Yeah, listen, he's gonna get the minutes. He's gonna get the power play one. He's a phenomenal player on the power play. He needs to stay healthy. Is he gonna be able to sustain those number one centerman minutes?
He doesn't have the pace
No,
that he used to have, right? Like, and he was never a very fast player.
no.
But he's always in the right position.
Mm-hmm. His IQ is very high when
So
it comes to hockey.
He had 21 power play points last year between Montreal and Winnipeg. And 18 minutes of time on ice, he was always on the power play. He finished with 59 points, basically. His point pace is actually lower than his actual point total because he played 83 games instead of 82. So, I mean, if he's a healthy player, it's going to be a boost for Columbus because it gives them that depth down the middle.
Yeah, and you're hoping Fantilli takes that next step, right?
And who better to learn from than a Monahan?
Well, like I said, I like this
Sorry.
Columbus team. I just think they're a very young team. They're still rebuilding. No matter what anybody says, this is a rebuilding team. You have Johnny Gaudreau there. It's a rebuilding team. You look at, we even have their defensemen, which one of them is between the 60 to 69, which is Werenski. He's up there in age also.
They're in the point of their rebuild where they need to slowly start breaking out of it. And I think Ken Johnson's a big part of that. I think they were expecting a lot more from him. Look, he's still very young, but this is a big year for him. He needs to show that he can stay in the NHL.
Are we talking about? I
just
think
go-
we're introducing Werenski right now.
To go back to Monahan, the reason they got Monahan was because guys like Ken Johnson can't play center yet, because Boone Jenner didn't stay healthy all year.
Imagine teaching, who better to teach Fantilli face-offs and just responsibility, defensive responsibility.
Exactly. Look, I think his ceiling is 60 points, Monahan. I'm not expecting that much more from him. The 21 points on the power play, that's going to help increase from 31 to maybe at least 20 range. Low 20s, which will mean more points for Gaudreau as well, because if your power play gets better, then I'm sure Gaudreau is going to touch that puck on that power play. So everything goes through him.
So back to where we've actually gone, which is Werenski. He staying healthy is going to be a big part of that as well. Because if you have a healthy Werenski, you have a number one power play quarterback, 70 games played last year, which was actually the most that he's had since 2018-19. That's a long time. I know there's COVID seasons in there, but
He's a legit loose leaf paper.
He's a loose leaf paper.
He's a loose leaf paper.
I hate to say it because I really like the player.
Very good player.
But he needs to stay healthy for this team to be not in the bottom.
To be relevant.
Yeah, not even
To be
relevant,
competitive.
because I don't see this team making the playoffs. But just
Maybe not.
I mean, if you look at their team stats, they're all in 30 and under. So I think with a healthy Werenski, it helps to bring them up.
I'll say one thing to Columbus fans that are actually watching this or listening. The fact that you have a new general manager, the fact that you have a new coach, just that alone should be very positive for you. You've always been a good drafting team, but now these people are going to take you to the next step.
Yeah, and they're gonna build a culture where they're not gonna want to leave. That's essentially what they're trying to do here. And when they announced that they were hiring Babcock, I thought that was the worst possible thing for this team.
That was the previous regime.
Right, the previous regime. Thank God that's done. And so Werenski, he's a point producer. The guy, when he's healthy, he puts up points. That's like
67-point pace last year.
That's
For
a
a defenseman,
legit
that's
point producer for sure.
Is he a number one defenseman?
No, because they can't rely on him to stay healthy. And a number one defenseman, as much as he puts up
Should have done
points,
that with the previous team too.
but yeah, I didn't wear it today because
We're not talking
there's
about
only only one that.
So
anyway.
I'm guessing you're going to go get it just for that one.
No. So back to Werenski. He's very good, and he could be a number one defenseman if he would have stayed healthy. But he doesn't stay healthy, and he can be relied upon. But the regime and the whole change of the regime and the culture, the biggest guy it could the one that could have the biggest impact on is David Jiricek. David Jiricek was, I think he was treated a bit unfairly in the sense that like they kept him up with the big team. They kept him up with Columbus, but never gave him an opportunity. Made him watch 20 games from the press box instead of playing games in the AHL and gaining experience and touching the puck and getting used to the game. I think this new regime will have the biggest impact on David Jiricek. And I expect him to have a good developmental year. That doesn't mean like a lot of points, but a good developmental year.
I love how you jump
to the wrong player.
like the wrong players. all the time.
Because we had him at power play D and Werenski, so I give it to Jiricek. Okay, yeah.
It's okay. So we spoke about Adam Fantilli, but I really want to focus on Fantilli because I think that he is the franchise center for this team.
Oh wow, I did. I skipped like 3 players.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm glad you read the show notes.
Well, it's because we relisted Werenski. Okay.
Last year, he didn't have a great rookie campaign.
Well, he had a decent one. He got hurt.
You're right. I shouldn't say that. He was on a 45-point pace, which we've mentioned in the past is actually very good for a rookie. But staying healthy is also very good for a rookie, which he kind of didn't have. Minus 21, we're not going to talk about that. Don't care. He was in his rookie season. Plus, the team was not a very good team last year.
And Gojo was like a minus 30.
Yeah, so I'm not really paying attention to plus minus here. He only had 44% of the power play time, which means they weren't really using him on PP1. And I think that's a shame because this player should be on their top power play. And I'm expecting this year that Dean Evison is going to have him on the top power play. Other than that, 45-point pace is very good for a rookie. I'm expecting him to hit around that again, maybe 50 points. I don't see him in the 60 to 69-point pace yet, unless it's a major jump, right? Don't forget, he only played 49 games. So it's a tall order to see him jump that quickly.
Like
we'll see preseason, we'll see training camp.
Like you said, I think we're being ambitious for him to hit in the 60 to 69 points. I feel if he hits the 50 to 60, I think it'll be a successful season for him.
Yeah, he should try to hit the 50 points. But I'll say this as well, like in his rookie year, despite what I'm about to say, he still was pacing for 45 points. These are the 3-line combinations he had throughout his 49 games. Gojo, Danforth, Fantilli. Voronkov, Marchenko, Fantilli. Benstrom, Kent Johnson, Fantilli. In none of those combinations is there a player that repeats. So he's had different line mates every single time.
Well, Fantilli repeats.
Yeah, well, duh. But like, how do you try to build chemistry? How do you try to build a future if he's always being tossed around like that?
I think Dean Evison is going to be a big difference this year. Anyways, that's just my opinion. I don't want to take over from you because this was your team, but I just wanted to kind of segue into this. Adam Fantilli, Patrick Laine. We spoke about Patrick Laine.
I just put him in there because I just think he has the talent to get into 60 to 69, but I'm not convinced he's going to be with Columbus.
Well,
I'm not convinced he's going to play 82 games.
He just got out of the player assistance program.
Yes.
And he's been allowed to speak to other teams.
Okay.
For a possible trade. So it looks like, and we're dating ourselves now because we're bringing this out on 10:41 p.m. on the 11th of August. Mm-hmm. By the 12th of August, he could be traded. We don't know. So we shouldn't really spend too much time speaking about him, but that's another loose leaf paper player. He hasn't been healthy. I think he played 82 games only twice in his career. He had like 15 minutes of time on ice last year in the 18 games he played.
I think it is quite important to talk about him. And maybe it's because I own him and I have a lot of decisions. I have a big decision to make.
Okay.
Right?
That's fair.
I own him in a cap league.
What's his cap hit?
8.7 million.
Jesus.
right? But he's he could be a 40 goal scorer, 35 goal scorer, 30 to 40 goal scorer.
He has the talent.
He's got the talent to the year before he had 52 points in 55 games. The year prior 56 and 56. This guy, he was pacing on points per game pace 2 consecutive years. So it's not something that's like came out of nowhere. But he cannot stay healthy physically and mentally, and that's very worrisome. But at the same time, fantasy GMs now have to debate, is his potential too good to just get rid of him for nothing?
I think if you're in a cap league,
Like, I'm in a cap league right now, and
you're in pain.
I'm in pain, and the reality is I'm trying to work to find a solution to keep the guy. But it's very difficult for a contending team in a fantasy league to keep a guy at 8.7 and justify that I could get rid of these up-and-comers or like mid-range guys that make 4-5 that could produce maybe more than him because he won't play.
It's a
difficult.
high risk. Keeping him is high risk.
You can't go in a league hoping a player plays 82 games. You just can't. And he's proven the past 5 years that he can't play 82 games.
If you have
I
an
just want him
IR
to play
spot,
60.
If you have an IR spot, you don't really care. You get that 8.5, 8.7 million dollars, and you put it in your IR spot, and you bring up a guy that whatever replaces, but it's still not an ideal situation. And if you don't have an IR spot, like some leagues don't, like LPHL, we don't have IR, right? That 8.7 million is painful.
Yeah.
That's a lot of potential talent lost.
So Laine is a good target for tanking teams to go acquire that don't need him to produce right away.
That will will flip him.
And his value is not high right now. So that's a potential move for a non-contending team to go get to either flip or keep, because guys, the reality
Actually,
is
that might be a very good idea for you who's tanking in Lama to go out and pay cents on the dollar to grab Laine and give the guy cap relief,
and guys, he's 20.
and then you flip him if he stays.
He's
like you
26
said,
years old, guys.
You have
He-
IR, so there's no cap relief. You just put him on IR.
No, but I'm pretty sure
That's
that
still a roster spot.
it's still a roster spot that he's trying to. Let's say he needs help on defense, he can't fill it because Laine has to start the season on his team.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen,
But he's healthy right now. He's out of the program.
Yeah.
So,
he
technically
counts.
speaking, he's playing
He's
game
not
one.
IR.
yeah. I'm not saying he's not going to play. I'm just saying to keep this player because you think of his potential. You need to, in your head, you need to tell yourself this guy's playing 60 games. So at 8.7 million, is he worth 55 points?
Look, if he's a point per game player and he plays 60 games, for me, it's a risk I'm willing to take.
I just want to mention something. We said, and you started off saying, "Oh, we're not going to have much to talk about Columbus," and this is the longest segment that we've had so far on the
because Junior brought
podcast.
up his line
And
he has him.
Okay, let's
his
move
value
on.
is
Let's
just
move
as
on.
bad in the NHL, though. So
Yeah.
that's the reason he's
Actually,
not
there's,
traded yet.
there's quite a few teams that have inquired supposedly.
Yes,
and that
but-
might be like playing the field a little bit because Don Waddell knows how to play the field.
But based off the rumors, the return is not going to be extravagant.
Listen,
They can't. They don't want to retain. So there's you
Exactly.
can't. At
here's another
8.7
player that's sinking them, and that's Elvis Merzlikins.
Oh God, this is
We spoke about we spoke about Werenski already.
Don Waddell. As soon as he took the job, no one wants his contract.
Yeah,
That's brutal, by the way.
897 save percentage, 3.45 goals against average, 33rd in goal save above expected. Nothing to write home about. Nothing to write home about. The only saving grace that they have is potentially Tarasov, who's younger and looking like a player that might establish himself in the NHL. 908 save percentage with a goals against average of 318. That's actually a pretty big improvement on Merzlikins, who's getting paid much more. 25th in goal save above expected for Tarasov, which is not bad. That's not bad numbers. But it's more average than it is.
I think this goalie tandem is a 2A 2B.
Like it's a 2A 2B. No ones anywhere.
No,
in here.
like that's listen. We have to say with the team they have, you're not expecting extraordinary numbers out of these guys, but you're not expecting terrible numbers like this. I do think their future is Tarasov. I don't think Merzlikins is in their plan. I think they're just hoping that Merzlikins gets a good enough season where he's tradable with the contract he has. Because right now he's not tradable. Waddell is right when he says no one wants that contract.
3 years, 5.4 million.
No one wants that contract. So, I mean, I'm not gonna spend much time on this goaltending. I think it's a 2A, 2B goaltending tandem. I think Tarasov is the future of this team. And I think it'll be, if not 50-50, I think Tarasov will get more games than Merzlikins. The only reason Merzlikins gets more games is if they're trying to up his stats for trade.
Keep an eye out on Jed Greaves. He's their third goalie. He had a great season in the AHL. Last year came up and had similar numbers to Tarasov for 9 games, which was better than Merzlikins. So I just look for Jed Greaves to have more of an impact in the NHL next year. He's 23 years old.
Power play defenseman. We skipped it on purpose. I skipped it on purpose.
Oof.
You skipped it on purpose.
Yeah.
But a reason for that is because we're going to talk about their best prospect
Yes.
as well. So I want to ask you guys a question here, even though it's not my team to really launch it.
Talk to me, Nick.
I really want your opinion on this.
He went from not talking last episode to now just not stopping.
I have a computer again. David Juracek, is he the number 2 power play defenseman, or is it Severson, or is it Mattychuk? Because right now on Daily Faceoff, they have Mattychuk as the number 2 power play defenseman, not David Juracek. I mean, the boys at Daily Faceoff, who knows, right? They could be playing around with stuff there. But Severson has never been a power play guy. I'm looking at his career. He's never been power play 1. And although he has had power play 2 numbers, he
was power play 2 with New Jersey. Hamilton was 1. He was
Yeah.
but never really put up great points. Like last year, he put up 32 points.
Yeah, but power play 1 over here, Nick, it's Werenski. No one's dethroning Werenski.
No, sorry. I want to know, is Severson going to be power play 2, or is it going to be David Juracek, or is it going to be Mattychuk? That's my question.
If I'm the coach, I'm putting Juracek and Mattychuk and see who can take the spot.
So do you guys think they're both going to make the team this year?
Well, I think Juracek is making it no matter what. Because he
That
already
I
played
agree.
NHL games
That I
last
agree.
year.
I just thought Mattychuk maybe still needed some seasoning, but
I think
We'll see at camp.
Yeah.
We'll see how camp goes. But they don't have much, eh?
I think they'll protect Mattychuk more, putting him on a third pairing, minimal minutes just to get him the cup of coffee in the NHL. But I think he'll excel in his role and make it that he stays there longer than they want him to.
So Eric Gudbranson is their number 6 defenseman. He's pure defense.
Yeah, of course.
Can't move the puck if his life depended on it, pretty much.
how's that for a third pairing?
But Denton Mattychuk is a puck mover. This guy has offense. They might have no choice but to put him in the lineup.
I listen.
$4 million, good Branson. 2 more seasons.
They're not in Columbus is.
Kikalainen really did not do
Destroyed
great.
this team. And they signed Jack Johnson. So your third pairing is Jack Johnson and Goodbranson. I don't think it gets slower than that as a defensive pairing.
The thing is, Columbus needs to know their identity, and their identity right now is a rebuilding team. A rebuilding team, you want to give your young guys a shot at what the NHL is all about, so that when you're ready to compete, these young players have enough seasoning that they're ready to be part of the solution. So I'm hoping Mattychuk will make it. I hope Juracek will make it. Like, to me, to have Jack Johnson there over Mattychuk makes no sense, because you're not fighting for a playoff spot.
No, but you have nobody that can move the puck.
No,
Jack
exactly.
Johnson cannot move the puck. Goodbranson cannot move the puck. So basically, you're just going to have 2 guys hemmed into their own zone. They hit hard,
Yeah.
but they don't skate well. They don't pass well.
So just to move on a little quickly here, because we're an hour in and we've only spoken of Carolina and Columbus.
Yeah, 2 teams is fine.
Caden Lidstrom.
Well, we're into the prospects now, Drew. Don't jump the gun.
That's what I'm doing. Caden Lidstrom. You just said we're into the prospect. He just spoke of Yurchek. You just spoke of
but it's
Matichuk.
his team. He should
Let
be
me mention the prospects first. So Adam Fantilli, we spoke about the prospects. Adam Fantilli.
I thought you did that for him.
No, I didn't.
I did it. I did do
You
it.
did
on
do
the
it
power
for
play-
him.
on
That
the
was
power
you.
play
You
D-man
even
side,
you even
yes.
announced it before you did it.
Cole Sillinger, another young player who
It's over.
had a very good season and then you saw took a step back. Is he going to be able to go back to that very good season? We're
Sophomore
not
slump?
sure. Yeah, maybe. David Yurchek, we spoke about him already. Denton Matichuk, we spoke to him. Gavin Brindley, he's going to be this team has a very good depth in defense. So I'm not worried about their defense. Their new little toy, Caden Lidstrom, got picked third overall or fourth. Third overall.
No, third was Seneki, so he got picked fourth.
So I mean, man, if this pays off and you got a Fantilli Lindstrom down the middle, this is for the future. It's beautiful. And then you have Charlie Illick and Ryan Gardner. You have a goalie also. So I mean, the one guy we're gonna talk about that we haven't spoken about is Caden Lindstrom. What can he do for this team?
I
He's not
don't
playing
think he
this year.
sees
No,
the
he's not gonna
NHL
play.
this year.
No, I wouldn't bring him into the NHL. That's why I think they signed Sean Monahan.
Look, Fantilli, the year that he went, Fantilli was known that he's going to be a franchise center. He wasn't on the same level as Bedard.
No.
But he was still on a Jack Hughes level. So that's what they were saying.
Yeah.
That's what they were talking about. So even though he's not a generational player, he's still a franchise player, and this guy could be a top franchise center for this team for years to come. Caden Lindstrom, they're saying he could compete for that number one spot. So you're looking very strong down the middle. If Caden Lindstrom could stay healthy, if his back problems, we've already mentioned all this during our draft episodes, but Caden Lindstrom will bring legitimacy to this rebuild because of the fact that they're going to have a 1-2 punch down the middle that's going to be legitimate. It won't be this year. I think next year is when you're going to see Caden Lindstrom.
And they're hoping their young guys, Cole Sillinger, Marchenko, Chernikov, all develop so that when Caden Lindstrom is ready to go, he's well surrounded.
They're going to be almost veterans by then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Monahan will be your third center.
Yeah.
Because he has a 5-year contract.
Or he'll just be the.
No, but it's a
He'll
great
be your
person to
third
be
year
the guide.
And I think what Lindstrom Fantilli combo does is move Ken Johnson to the wing. I think now more than ever we can say Ken Johnson is going to be a winger.
Yeah, he's not a center
in the NHL.
He's not a center. I think he's proven he's not a center. Final thoughts.
So to
guys.
close out Columbus, final thoughts. Dom has them in 20th in his model. Another rough season ahead, which we all can see. The only thing is there's light at the end of the tunnel. The Columbus essentially staying status quo. Monahan should improve the power play. The rest is up to the young guys and see how well they develop. So that's going to be the leading story for Columbus this year.
I'm very curious to see what trades they make, because I think that's going to be a big factor as well. Trading Line away, what kind of return, if any, they could get. Possibly trading away Merzlikins, maybe an improvement on goaltending. I don't know how that's going to work, but to me, that's going to be a very interesting.
They're going to be.
I think Don Waddell is going to be.
They're going to be
busy.
sellers before they're going to be buyers. So it's going to be interesting this year. Junior.
The difficult part with Waddell's job, they already have. Oh, never mind. I thought it was salary retained. I thought they had 2 spots with salary retained, but they only had buyouts.
Junior, why don't you introduce our next team?
Yeah, sure. No problem. I won't give my take on Columbus. I've said enough.
Oh, sorry, I thought that was your take.
No, my take on Columbus is exactly that. They still have ways to go, and the young guys have to take the next step in order for them to be relevant next year.
So basically, what I just said.
That's what I said.
You can make
what
this
I said
podcast
is
much
exactly
shorter
like
by
what
just
you
saying.
said.
I agree with Vince.
All right, team number 3, the New Jersey Devils, who will flip the table upside down from going 38 wins and 39 losses and the 13th ranked power play last year. I believe the 38 wins will probably be close to 50 next year. Who's in? Well, Stefan Noesen is in. Thomas Tatar is back. Paul Cotter, young guy from the Vegas Golden Knights. Brett Pesce, Brendan Dillon, and Jacob Markstrom. Who's out? Youngster Alexander Holtz, Thomas Nosek, John Marino, Kevin Ball, and Capo Kakkonen. I think what we could see from the ins and outs here is that they got better with the ins and were even better with the outs. Anyhow, let's go move on to the player tiers. 91 plus points. So over a point per game player, we have two candidates on the New Jersey Devils. We will start with the obvious one. Thomas Tatar. No, I'm just kidding. Jack Hughes. Jack Hughes, guys. 91 plus points this season. Given he stays healthy, I assume, right? All right, nobody take the lead. All right, I'll go again.
Yeah.
I was expecting you to say, what do you think,
Vince or Nick. I think
I asked
this
the
is.
question. You didn't answer.
I think this is a no-brainer. The year before, he had 99 points in 78 games. Last year, 74 points in 62 games. This guy's just he's just got it all together. He's a star. They surrounded him with talent, and I think he's bound to go over 91 points this year. It's just, to me, this isn't easy. Like, if Vegas has Jack Hughes at over under 90 points, I bet the house on the over.
From your mouth to God's ears.
So Jack Hughes is absolutely a franchise center, like we were speaking about before. And the first couple of years in the NHL, he didn't really do that. But then he just exploded. Point paces of 94, 104, and 98 in 3 back-to-back seasons. So we're looking at a guy that is absolutely the franchise center, even though Hischier is there. We're talking about a player that needs to stay healthy. I don't know if you guys agree, but I mean, he's gotten the opportunity. He has all the power play time in the world. He has 75% of the power play last year, but he only played 62 games, and missing those 20 games really hurts a fantasy GM who in round 1 or round 2 is looking for that center and grabs Jack Hughes. If he doesn't stay healthy, it's. Are we getting a loose leaf paper vibe, or?
Well, in a redraft league that we did, I went on a limb and I took Jack Hughes over Austin Matthews because I just not assumed, but I projected him.
Okay, we're just gonna mute Junior because never again am I gonna hear something like that.
Just because I expected him to have that 100-point pace. That
Over Austin Matthews?
Yeah, well, looking back now, obviously it was a dumb decision.
How are you on this podcast?
First of all, he was coming off a 99-point season in 78 games, and I was expecting even more from him. The reality is he maybe that was his peak. I don't know. No, but like Jack Hughes, like you guys said, he's a star. Like 91 plus points is exactly where he should be, but he needs to stay healthy both for himself and the New Jersey Devils. It is what it is.
Yeah, I said next player that we had in the 91 plus
Jesper Bratt, which is a little bit surprising because of his name. Not a lot of people talk about him, but the reality is this guy just puts up points. So last year, for the first time in his career, was a point per game player. Played 82 games. The year before, played 82 games, 73 points. Prior to that, 73 points in 76 games. Is he officially... So now we have him ranked at 91 plus points. Does that have anything to do with Jack Hughes staying healthy? Or do we just think Jesper Bratt is going to take the next step and enter his prime at 91 plus points? Personally, before you guys go on, I'm saying he's more of a point per game than a 91 plus.
I put him at 91 plus because it has everything to do with Jack Hughes playing 82 games. And he is, I know Nick looks at the stats and who you played with during the season. I guarantee you Bratt and Hughes are probably at 90% together all the time. So they're the combo in this New Jersey team. So I feel he's gonna and I feel this team is also gonna take a step forward this year. 26 hitting his prime. This is the year where he hits that over 90 points.
I think you guys are a little bit optimistic. If Jesper Bratt hits point per game, I think that's very good for Jesper Bratt. He's a very talented player. I traded him away, and
'Cause you're
I
an idiot.
regretted it. But the fact is that he's also a player that I don't think will ever hit that 90-plus point caliber. Hughes, I could see as a superstar like that. I can't see Brad as a superstar like that, and not because of his size, even though he's not a very big player, right? He's very small, or he's below average. But it's just the fact that he kind of needs that center to create a lot for him. I just don't see the 91 plus. I see him in the 80 to 90 point tier, which is the next tier down, which currently we don't have anybody in. And I think it's safe to put him in that 80 to 90 point tier. I just feel 91 plus might be a little bit overstating.
Yeah, tier 2 is a point per game.
Yeah, tier 2 point per game. That's I mean, and that's very good, guys. Like let's not kid ourselves. I just don't think that he's going to be that step, even another step forward. I just don't see it. I don't know.
Okay.
And don't forget, they're a lot deeper team than they used to be. So the fact of 19 minutes of time on ice, I don't know if he's going to do that again this year. So,
All right, so let's move on to the number 2 center on this team, the captain, Nico Hischier. 71 games played last year, 27 goals, 40 assists, 67 points. So just under a point per game pace. The year before that, 80 points in 81 games. Just under, but pretty much a point per game. And prior to that, 60 points in 70 games. So where does Nico Hischier live? Are we forgetting about him because we're speaking so much of Bratt and Hughes? Or is Hischier just a nice complementary piece that uses the fact that the team's focus on Hughes to take advantage of his matchups?
I mean, how many teams out there could say that they had 2 number 1 overall picks?
Centers, too.
And both of them, well, yeah, right. So they got their 1-2 punch, and Hischier, a lot of his value comes on his two-way play. So he does put up points. Maybe point per game, because he did hit close to it last season. 81 games played, 80 points. Sorry, the previous season.
Yeah.
Last season he hit 67 points in 71 games. Again, pretty close to point per game. So I kind of like him in that tier 2. In my opinion. And look, guys, a lot of what I'm basing on is I think Timo Meier is going to take a big step forward. One of these 2 centers is playing with Timo Meier. And I think that it's going to help. You have Bratt, you have Timo Meier. Like, your wingers are very good wingers. And that's why I feel like these centers who are already stars in their own right are going to have the supporting cast this year maybe better than they had in previous years.
Not convinced with Nico Hischier. I think he could be a phenomenal two-way player. I don't think he can put those 80 to 82 points a year. I feel
He's done 81 before.
Yeah, Jack Hughes got hurt, so he got those minutes. So because I like, even if he plays on power play 1, he's not option 1 on. He's not option 1. He's not option 2, and he's not option 3 on that power play.
He's in front of the net on the power
He's
play.
in front of exactly. So
In the year that he got 81 points, Jack Hughes played 78 games. So it's not that Jack Hughes got hurt.
yeah, but Jack Hughes got 99 points that year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, on pace for 104.
Yeah. So if Jack Hughes is on pace for what we're expecting, 91 plus, I still don't think he's gonna hit. I think his goal around is between 70 and 79, just because of his two-way play. I think he'll be the one who's they're gonna they're going to be dependent on him to be a very good two-way centerman to keep Jack Hughes very protected, and he'll go up against the top lines of all the other teams, which I feel might take back from his offense. And as much Timo Myers, which we'll talk about later, as much as I think I do agree that he will have a bounce back year, I feel he's the one who might be get pushed up to the first line with Hughes and Brad.
Well, and Nico Hischier can't really be pushed up because he's a center. But yeah, to put him at a point per game, I think that could be his ceiling. I see him more at like the high 70s for sure. But I'm with Nick. I think Myers going to have a crazy bounce back year. I'm so high on the Devils, I have them winning the division. I'll give you a spoiler alert for next 2 weeks from now. To me, New Jersey Devils are Metropolitan Division winners and potential cup contenders.
So Timo Myers was the next player we were going to talk about. So Nick, why don't you start off with? We have him in the same tier as Hischier, right?
Yeah, tier 3, 70 to 79
70 to
points.
79 points. So what do we think about Timo Myers and what he can do? Remember last year, I think, was it his first year with New Jersey last year?
First full year. He played 21 games the year before.
And they got a coaching change too this year.
And 52 points in 69 games last
So
year.
Nick, what's your gauge? You already said that you think he's gonna have a bounce back year. What kind of bounce back year are we looking at?
I think Timo Meyer has the ability to have 75 points this year.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm saying that is not because he scored 40 in the 2022-23 year, but because I think he's a 35 goal scorer. 30 to 35 goals perennially moving forward is how I see Timo Meyer. And we're talking about 19 minutes of time on ice is when he produces well. Last year, he only had 17 minutes of time on ice. I don't think that's the kind of player he is. 17 minutes is second, third line player?
Well, it's a second line player.
But that middle six, you're not talking about a top line winger.
No.
And I feel like you can't tell me that Palat is better than him. You can't even tell me that Mercer is better than him.
No. Well, the people who tell you that are smoking some good.
But if you look at daily
legal weed.
lineups, if you look at daily face-off and look at their lineups right now, those are the type of players that are competing for top six roles with Timo Meyer. Timo Meyer should be playing 19 minutes a night. And if they're coming in this year and play him 19 minutes a night, he's going to go back to that 35 to 40 goal Timo Meyer. You need him to be playing minutes. You're paying the guy to $8 million. You've got to start playing him what he's worth.
We're talking about an off year. The guy scored 28 goals in 69 games. An off year.
It was only a 62-point pace.
But
That's the part that hurt.
But
This is
if he
what's-
scores 35 to 40 goals, it's
may-
not an off year, even if
No.
he has 60 points.
Timo Meyer is a goal scorer. You're not going to see Timo Meyer pull up the 40 goals and 40 assists. It's going to be the 40 goals and the 20 to 25 assists.
Sure.
And this is why I do believe...
Still very valuable in fantasy.
No, 100%. This is
100%.
this is why I believe what Nick is saying is right. I do not believe he's a 28 goal scorer. I think he's more in the 35 to 40 goal scorer.
Yeah, I think
70 to
35 is safe to average for him.
70 to 75-point pace, but 35 goals.
I
right?
could see him
Which
being
in leagues where goals are more important than assists, he's a very valuable player. at
in
that
the
price.
most ideal situation and everything goes his way. I can easily see him 35 goals, 35 assists. Easy.
In hit leagues, he puts up 154, 160 hits per game per season. Again, it has to be 19 minutes per time on ice, average. It can't be 17 like last year, because that's why he didn't produce last year.
Listen, well, preseason will tell us everything, right? On lineups and stuff like that. So it'll be exciting to see the tier 4 player.
The next two topics will be very interesting. So let's
Oh.
jump to tier 4, 60 to 69 points. We have one player, a defenseman, coming off a long-term injury, Dougie Hamilton. This is going to be interesting because and I'll tee it up, and then I'll let you guys take off. In his absence, Luke Hughes took the reins of Power Play 1. 47 points, I believe, in 82 games for Luke Hughes last year. 25 power play points. Most of them came after the injury, right? So we think Hamilton retakes his position and stays a 60-point defenseman? Or is he dipping? Where do you guys stand here?
I think Hamilton takes back his number one defenseman position, the number one PP position. We'll talk about Luke Hughes. I feel Luke Hughes will have a step back here this year, back to reality. But Dougie Hamilton, he's just too talented to put any of these young defensemen in front of him. He's proven that he's just a unbelievable defenseman. I mean, 2022, 2023, 74 points. 2021, 2022, 62 games, 30 points. He's always been in that range. And I feel with New Jersey, with the talent he has around him, especially on the power play, like I don't see this power play ranking 13th overall next year. I feel going in the top 10. And I feel it's because Dougie Hamilton will be there.
Nick, you've been smashing that pen like you've had something you really want to talk about. So,
well, look, so I want to preface it with Dougie Hamilton absolutely has the talent. You're absolutely right. But there's a reason I traded him, and I kind of targeted. I was having a lot of cap issues in Project Llama. Mm-hmm. I needed to move money out. So I knew that I wasn't going to get top value because I was trading a player that was injured all year. I had to get something in return, and I ended up getting the 15th overall pick and Rasmus Sandin. Now, in retrospect, it's selling low, and I accepted a trade that was lower than I should have. I probably should have waited a little bit longer and tried to gauge the market in the offseason a little bit longer. Listener Adam got a very good trade from me. But I will tell you one reason why I did, or two reasons why I did trade Dougie Hamilton away, is that last year in the 20 games he did play, he had 16 points, which people are going to say, hey, that's a great pace, right? 66-point pace for a defenseman is great. But he only had 35% of the power play exposure. That's not power play 1 minutes. Even so, Luke Hughes didn't take over power play 1 because Hamilton got injured. Luke Hughes took power play 1 before Hamilton got injured. The other thing I'll mention is that he's coming off a season-long injury at age 31. It gives me pause because at an $8 million player, it's a big risk having a full season injury and expecting him to come back at the same level that he was before. Can it happen? Absolutely, it could happen. We saw Patrick Kane come off a huge injury and still produce points. I'm not saying it's impossible. I hesitate to say that it's going to be every player like that. So I decided to sell on Dougie Hamilton because I needed the cap space. People will argue that I didn't get enough, and I think I didn't get enough in return. With that 15th overall pick, I ended up picking Connolly.
Trevor Connolly?
Yeah, Trevor Connolly from the Vegas draft pick, who had some off-ice issues and some on-ice issues as well. But talented player. We'll see if that pays off for me in the long run. But I hesitate to say that Hamilton will simply just come back and be power play 1 and will be able to put up 70 points again coming off the injury that he came off at 31 years old.
Drew?
I sold him low as well. I was contending for a top 3 spot in LPHL, and I traded him for Brent Burns and like a 3rd-round pick, which is brutal. Absolutely brutal, but I wanted to stay in contention, and Burns helped me out for the first couple of weeks and then kind of disappeared. But those are decisions you make when you're going for it. They're difficult decisions, but at the end of the day, it got you in a prize money spot, I think, in Lama.
I traded him in the offseason, but in order for me to keep the team that I had last year, which finished top 3, I needed to save money somewhere. So it was either save money on Dougie Hamilton or trade Vasilevsky or trade right? There's only so much. You can't just trade your $2 million players and think you're making enough cap space. You got to trade somebody big in cap league sometimes. And this year, for me, it was Dougie Hamilton, and it hurts because my defense is suffering now because of it.
Look, do I think he gets power play one time? Not necessarily right away. I'm not sure how this goes out because I believe it's going to be a new coach.
It is.
Yes, right? Because Hamilton, the last game Hamilton played, Lindy Ruff was still head coach of that team.
That's right.
So things are going to change. How much do they change? Like, I don't know what that means for Hamilton. Do we know who the coach is? I can't remember.
Yeah, we do know who the coach is.
Anyhow, look, I mean, oftentimes, anytime a young guy has like a crazy rookie year, we automatically assume he's not going to have a good year in his sophomore year. I think he's well insulated, Luke Hughes, that he can reap.
Sheldon Keefe.
Oh, yeah, Sheldon Keefe. Wow.
How do you forget these things, Junior?
Wow.
In all honesty, I had a memory blank.
But I knew it was obvious. But look, I see Sheldon Keefe utilizing Luke Hughes. You can't not use Luke Hughes after the season he had and just go from 21 minutes a game now to 18.
Doesn't mean that Hamilton won't be productive.
No, he's definitely still going to be productive. This is going to be a high-scoring team, and I think they're going to fluctuate between Hamilton and Hughes on power play one. I just don't think it's going to be constant just Hamilton or constant just Hughes. It's going to be a back-and-forth thing.
You guys want a controversial statement? I think Nemec is going to be a better hockey defenseman in the NHL than Luke Hughes.
Yeah, but fantasy-wise, Luke Hughes right now is...
I think Nemec... I think right now, yes, Luke Hughes. I think Nemec will surpass Luke Hughes.
I want to put an asterisk here. The asterisk is that you own Nemec.
Yeah, but that...
And you don't own Luke
I own
Hughes.
Nemec as well.
I had Luke Hughes in LPHL and I traded him, but I feel Nemec is going to be a better, not only all-around defenseman for the Devils, but I feel points-wise, fantasy, he at one point will take over the power play one.
It's possible. I mean, look, I'm
Hughes.
going to say it's possible not because I think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But Nemec's talent level is out there. At one point,
People don't know.
I was really hoping you were going to trade him to me.
That's what I'm saying. People right now, people are correlating Luke Hughes with his brother Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes, and correlating that he's going to become. And I'm not saying he's a bad player. To have Luke Hughes and Nemec as your future defenseman, God bless you. Any team would take that, but I still feel that Nemec will be that number one defenseman on that New Jersey Devils team.
To be fair, what I'm correlating when I look at these two, and I have high hopes for Nemec as well, but I have to be honest, what worries me is in a season where Luke Hughes played 82 games and Nemec played 60, Hughes was the go-to guy on the power play, not Nemec. So Hughes took the reins. Hughes outplayed Nemec on the to get that power play opportunity.
Hughes was there before Nemec. Nemec was starting the AHL.
But they only played 22 games different.
Yeah, but
Nemec,
I understand. But Luke Hughes started hot. You're not taking a hot player off the power play.
But
19 points in 60 games is not a lot. Like,
Like,
honestly, I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of competition in New Jersey, and that's what scares me for Nemec, knowing that he couldn't even take Luke Hughes' spot.
I think what Vince was trying to say that in their primes, which are going to be around the same time, that he thinks Nemec is going to be a better player and a better power play person than Luke Hughes. We're not talking about year 1 or 2. We're talking
All around
about
player, yes, but I think
later
power
on.
play wise, it might still be Hughes.
I agree with you. I think that it will still be Hughes because he has that offensive pedigree. But you never know.
It doesn't
Nemec
mean he
might-
can be productive though with points. Nemec, he can still
And
be.
Hamilton is not a spring chicken either. 31 years old, coming off an injury.
Hamilton's got.
You might see Nemec and Hughes power play 1, power play 2, and who knows who's going to be where exactly. We'll see.
The biggest upgrade, Nick, that the Devils did. Are we going there?
Well, it's Junior's team, so I don't want to.
Jacob Markstrom, save percentage 905, goals against average 2.78. Goals save above expected was 14th in the league for goalies that played a minimum of 20 games. And then we have Jake Allen, whose save percentage was 895, goals against average 3.44, 35th in the league in goals saved above expected. So definitely an improvement from Akira Schmid and
Kakinen,
and
Jesus,
Jake
Vanacek.
Allen.
Vanacek. And so, I mean, the biggest hole they had was in goal, and it was the primary reason. So I'll give you this stat, and then I'll let you guys go. Goals for 12th in the league, the New Jersey Devils.
Man, you
Pretty good, right?
You took it, Junior. So I was gonna go.
He doesn't know when to give it to someone else.
I'm presenting it. I'm presenting it.
No,
to
you're
you guys.
giving stats. When you present, you leave it to the next person to talk, and you speak at the end.
You guys, you want to present? You put stats on the sheet. I don't get it.
Go, Junior.
Okay, so they have Markstrom and Allen. Go. tell me about it.
So Junior was gonna finish off with goals against. They were ranked 26th.
Yeah.
They will not be ranked 26th this year in goals against. With Markstrom and nets, especially Markstrom, if you look at his stats every time he's on a new team, it seems like he's rejuvenated for that 1 year. So and this is the year that he's first year with New Jersey, has a better defensive line in front of him. So I feel those goals against is gonna go not 26th, but it's gonna go way up. And this is the piece they needed to take the next step. I can't say anything else about that goalie.
I think it was the perfect fit.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be the perfect fit from the beginning. They fell into some trade negotiation problems which delayed the trade, but finally it ended up happening. And Markstrom is absolute, and Jake Allen actually. Let's not kid ourselves. Jake Allen as a backup is a very good backup.
Yeah, like his numbers don't reflect that because I think they overplayed him last year. But I think this is the piece they needed. This is the jump that New Jersey is going to make.
And on top of that, they solidified their D with Dylan and Pesci.
I think Pesci is very underrated addition.
Even Dylan on the PK. So prospects. I mean, Junior, do we have much to talk about?
We spoke of Nemec. We spoke of user Seamus Casey, who's another up-and-coming defenseman. I don't know how many they need on top of Anton Silyev, who they just drafted as well. So they've got a Nico Dawes in goal. I don't know where, like Nico Dawes, maybe could have a nice future, knowing that Markstrom is not the youngest, Allen is not the youngest, so he's the next man up.
He's in a good situation.
And that's it. I think we can move on to final thoughts.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll let you say what's written there because I just want to say one thing. Every single year, I think New Jersey wins the offseason. Every single year, I walk into the offseason and say, wow, this is the most improved team there possibly can be. And I'm talking about from the moment they got Hamilton, from the moment that from the moments they had Subban. Like, I was absolutely ecstatic with every move they do in the offseason, and they always let me down. So I want to be as excited as you guys are because I could hear the excitement in your voices.
Oh, baby, they're taking Carolina's spot, my friend.
I just don't. I've been burned too many times. And trust me, I'm a Raiders fan. I know about burning. You know, every offseason I walk in as a Raiders fan and I say, wow, this year might be the year. And every year they don't make the playoffs. Or Derek Carr gets hurt in the first playoff appearance. And anyways. Speaking of which, by the way, just on a tangent, I will be on the Bush League Huddle podcast on Tuesday talking about the Raiders. So if you guys want to tune into Bush League Huddle, they're doing a team-by-team preview, kind of like we are now in the offseason, and they invited me over to speak on fantasy football for the Raiders. So
Don't embarrass us, man.
I'm sure that they're going to ask you for the 49ers.
Oh, great. I'm definitely going to embarrass you guys.
He's talking about the Raiders. So
Yeah, there's not much embarrassment. You could go further than that, right?
Junior, final
All
thoughts.
right,
on the
speaking
New
of
Jersey.
embarrassment, well, according to Dom, they're the total opposite of an embarrassment, the Devils, this offseason, ranking them second in the league for most improved team in the offseason. They filled their holes in goal with Markstrom and Allen, filled their need of NHL defensemen, reliable defensemen on D with Pesci and Dylan. Personally, I think they seem poised for a nice cup run. Last year, I think we were naive with the numbers Vanacek put up with, was it Washington?
And Schmid.
And Schmid put up. So, I think we were just naive thinking that automatically they can do that again. With the additions of Pesci and Dylan, and Markstrom and Allen, like they literally have no more holes. I'm just curious to see what Mercer gets paid because he's still an RFA. But this team has all the tools to be a legit cup contender.
Nick, introduce to us the first New York team in this Metropolitan League.
So the New York Islanders had 39 wins, 27 losses. Great run at the end of the season in order to make the playoffs, by the way. They were 19th on the power play with 20.3% conversion. Who's in? Anthony Duclair. Who's out? Clutterbuck and Matt Martin, which is actually an upgrade. Anyways, we'll get there. Player tiers. We have nobody listed here as 91 plus point projections. We'll see if that's accurate or not. And then we have Matthew Barzal between 80 to 90 points. So I'll throw it to Vince first. Talk to me about Matthew Barzal and the 80 to 90 point.
I like this ranking. Patrick Roy came a bit past midseason to take over this team. You saw there was already a jump in their steps when he took over the system. Islanders was always
It was a slow jump.
Yeah, because Islanders were always a defensive team, right? So I think Patrick wanted to like change that into a more attacking team, but it took time for guys to buy in, and I still don't think some guys did fully buy in still towards the end of the season. I think now he's got a whole off season. He knows his players better than he did when he first got there, and Barzal is the first one who's going to benefit from Patrick Roy. He likes to let his superstars go. He likes to play them hard minutes. So last year he hit 80 points in the 80 games, so it was basically a point per game player. And he took 240 shots. His shooting percentage was 9.6, which is his average is about 10.7. So I don't see this minimizing. I feel then the 80 point range to 89 is feasible for Barzal. The only downfall with Barzal is I don't see him scoring more than 25 goals. I feel he's more of a playmaker than he is a goal scorer.
To me, his ceiling is a point per game. I think in his prime, that's what he can be consistently. I don't know. There's something, maybe it's just him being an Islanders that stops me from thinking he can put up 90 plus points. I love him as a player. I don't see him getting more than that 80, 82 points per season. I have a really hard time, which is why I like where he was placed. But if I were to be even safer, I would have put him between 70 and 79, just because I think he'll flirt between 79 and 82 points on a consistent basis, 78 and 82 points.
So there's a couple of things here that I'll highlight, and I will mention that I am an owner of Barzal. I did pay for him. A first-round pick, and it was a little bit of a dump as well. I got rid of Jesus, I can't remember names. It's 11 o'clock at night, guys. I'm really sorry. Calgary's Huberto. Yeah. So
that guy again.
That guy. Huberto and a first for Barzal was my trade. Now, I'll mention one thing right off the bat. Last year was the first time ever Barzal shot 240 shots on goal. If you saw games last year for the New York Islanders, he was making it a point to shoot all the time. And I loved what I saw, because a big reason I traded for him is this guy was not playing center anymore. And I think that was a huge upgrade in his fantasy value, because Barzal playing center, he was always the defensively responsible guy, coming back first, the first one on the back check, the first one here. Now he was focusing purely on offense, because he had Horvat playing more of that two-way defensive game. And that's where I saw the change in him. That's where I saw him put up an 80 points in 80 games, point per game last season. And I feel with Patrick Roy coming in, playing him 20, 21 minutes a night, because that's what I feel Patrick Roy does. He will grab his stars and he'll play his stars, right? I feel that there's a possibility he hits 85 points this year. Again, it's not that much of a difference, right?
No.
5 points, whatever, here and there. But that's what I think that he will do this year, and that's why I paid what I paid to get him.
Makes sense.
Next, so if we're saying Barzal is more of a playmaker, who's the guy that's going to be finishing off his passes?
Well, I mean, they have Horvat, and they have Duclair now.
Yeah.
Anders Lee is not...
Oh, there's someone else before Andrews Lee that.
Well, there's Brock Nelson,
Yeah.
but he's a center, so he doesn't play at the same line as Horvat.
Or his center wing, depends.
Yeah, he plays
Yeah.
wing. I've never seen...
Sometimes.
I mean, the top power play, I agree with you, though. It's Nelson, Horvat, Dobson, Barzal.
But they're so weak in the middle. Well, having put Barzal on the wing, you kind of have to have him at center now.
So
Right.
since we're talking about Brock Nelson, we have him in tier 4 between 60 and 69 points. Do we see this as a good fit? As
We have nobody, by the way, in tier 3.
No.
So just to move on
Yeah.
officially, tier 4, we have 3 players.
So
That
Brock,
we already mentioned, but
Brock Nelson.
Brock Nelson is the one that we'll
Is
start
this
with.
a safe bet? Do we see him? Because I feel he's a guy that is always under the radar. You don't hear about him, and all of a sudden you look at the stats and you're like, oh wow, this guy's got 30 goals. And so is he
Consistently.
Yeah,
Like
so,
3 years in a row of over 30 goals.
So can he keep it up for this year, or can he go closer to 40 goals?
I think 35 is a great area in goal scoring for Nelson, and I think a big part of that is that he's also 32 years old,
Exactly.
right? He's not. I don't see Patrick Roy necessarily giving him 20 minutes a night. The guy's career high is 18 minutes a night, and I think 18 minutes a night, 35 goals, definitely PP1 is fair. So that puts me in that. Maybe even 70 point. I would even put him a tier higher.
Okay.
Like last year, he was on pace for 69. Actually, he finished with 69 points. The previous year, he was at 75. So, I mean, you take it with a grain of salt. Still 250 shots on goal. Like, the guy could score.
Yeah, he's fringe tier 3, tier 4. He's like right there.
Yeah.
And a bit like Barzal, he's like right at the edge. On any given season, he could be between 60 and 69, or the next he could be 70, 79. Obviously, he's 32 years old, so you would think he would start trending towards the 60, 69 at some point. But 32 is not old. It's not that old.
No, it's not that.
Not for goal scorers, anyway. So, in a realistic frame for next year, I see him as a 35-30, 35 goals, 30 assists, 65 points guy, which fits right into the tier 4.
So what about the other guy we mentioned that's going to be on power play 1, which is Bo Horvat? So Horvat is a little bit of that Heischer type, right? He's a responsible two-way player that still puts up 30 goals 3 years in a row.
Not quite a point per game player.
No, I wouldn't. put
Oh
him
no,
that
sorry. I meant two-way. Like he's a good two-way
Yeah.
player, not necessarily a point per game. But yeah, go ahead, Junior.
Yeah, I see him potentially hitting the 70 points more than some of, like, let's say Nelson, because he's a more all-around player and could contribute both assists and goals. Like he makes the players around him a little bit better. 18 power play points last year. I like where he's situated just because I want to see the Islanders score more goals before I can start putting players in tier 3 and 2. But if there's a player that can move into tier 3 at 70 to 79, it's probably Bo Horvat or the next guy we'll talk about.
I feel he's a streaky player. So in 3 weeks, you might hear about Horvat scoring 15 goals. And then the 4 next weeks, you hear nothing about Bo Horvat. So I feel his consistency has to be better for him to even be considered in the 70 to 79 point tier. I feel he has to... He can't in 3 weeks. He can't score 10 goals and then go goalless for 4 weeks. It just won't happen.
Guys, I want to talk to you about a player that we didn't have written here.
Oh, you go, Nick, off the board again.
But, well, it's my team, so I could do it. I want to talk about Anthony Duclair. And a big reason why I'll talk about Anthony Duclair is because he has the ability to hit that 60 to 70 point criteria for tier 4 that we have them at. And maybe a part of it is the fact that Patrick Roy loved this player from the Quebec Ramparts for years, was one of his top goal scorers. Do we think Anthony Duclair has the ability to hit that 60 points here on this New York Islanders team?
He's paced for it twice in his career, both when he was with the Florida Panthers in 2020, 2021. Look, who else is going to put up points for them? I think they need another 60 to 65, 70 point player on this team in order to keep competing for a playoff spot. In a perfect world, according to them, he will be that guy. That's why they went out to get him. I don't know if I could label him that yet. Just a 60. He's going to be close. I think he's going to be close.
I think it's fair.
I think if his time on ice becomes what it's supposed to be in the top 6 forward, I think he could hit the 60 point. But this is all taking into account that Roy is changing the system into a more attacking system than defensive system. But he's definitely going to get, I don't see anybody taking Duclair off of the top 6 forwards. He's going to be in there as a winger. And listen, he can be the man. I'm trying to find for the guy who puts in the Barzal assists.
So I think a big part of it is going to be exactly what you said. It depends on where he's playing. He's playing top 6 for sure. But is he playing with Nelson or is he playing with Barzal and Horvat, right? So it's going to be interesting to see. Another top 6 player that's not on this list is Tsiplaklov.
They just signed them, right?
Yeah,
who is a KHL player.
That's it. I didn't know much about him. I didn't want to put him because like I said, I saw him on the top 6 on Daily Faceoff, but I wasn't sure if he was really going to hit that top 6.
Well, so Tsiplaklov is a KHL star.
Okay.
And he's one of those coming over. So you kind of don't know. Is he going to turn into like a Komarov? Is he going to turn into a, right? Like, is he going to be a Panarin? No, not a Panarin, right? But he's
Dandanov.
Right, Dandanov. So we don't know necessarily, but in the KHL, he's put up numbers before. Go ahead, Junior.
47 points in 65 games and 25 points the year before in 63. So he's coming off his career year.
Well, I know that the Habs were one of the teams that were looking to bring him in to the organization because he had a few teams that he was able to potentially go to, and he decided to go to the Islanders. And I think a big part of that is because he felt there's an opportunity for top 6 role here.
Yeah, he has the opportunity. I don't, like Vince said, I don't know much about the player, his best assets, his tools and stuff. But look, 47 points in the KHL is not too shabby. The fact that it's his career year and he's 25 years old, it doesn't surprise me because of how the KHL works and how they don't like to play young players that much. So at 25 career year, look, he's going to be top 6. He'll be given an opportunity for sure. It's up to him to take advantage of it.
It might be a little bit, so for those people in one-year leagues, just keep an eye on him. It might be a little bit of a change going from KHL ice surface to NHL ice surface. The speed of the game is different as well. I'm not so sure that he starts in the top 6, but maybe graduates there eventually.
I suspect to see him in our waiver wire pickups during the season.
Yeah, might be an interesting player to keep an eye on. The other player who was in our 60 to 69 points list was Noah Dobson.
Listen, this kid had a phenomenal year last year, 70 points. There's no competition for him. He's going to get all the minutes and all the power play time on this team. So can he replicate the 70 points? I think he'll be the high 60s, and he'll be one that could, play be at the edges of the tier 3 that we're talking about.
I think this is who he could be. 70 point defenseman. Look, on a better power play, can he be almost an 80 point defenseman? Maybe. He already has 24 points on the power play. So I absolutely love Noah Dobson. 10 goals, 60 assists, 70 points last year. I think this could be his floor.
Really? So 60 to 69 is his floor, you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am an owner of Dobson in Project Llama. I don't know if he's going to play 24 minutes again, time on ice.
Who's gonna play?
But I mean, again, we said Patrick Roy loves to ride his superstars, and 70 points is not out of the realm of possibility for him again this year if he puts up that kind of ice time. With a slightly improved power play, I think it's very possible that he's a 70-point defenseman going forward. He hasn't even reached his prime yet, guys. He's just hit 24. You know, like we're talking about a player that you keep for years to come. $8 million, I think, is his new contract, only coming in next year. So,
Actually, he's not signed. There was a rumor he was going to sign for $8 million.
oh, was it?
But it's his final season at $4 million, and he's a RFA with arbitration rights heading into 2025, 2026.
Okay, so there you go.
But I, like you, right before checking, I was in the impression he had a long-term contract.
Yeah, I thought
Secured.
I saw that secured, but okay.
I'm gonna check another website just to be sure.
There's
but
no name out here that is gonna dethrone him from that number one defenseman. I feel playing with Romanov is a good fit for him. Romanov who's known
a
as
perfect defensive
defenseman. And I don't know, man. The other power play defenseman we have is Ryan Pollock. I honestly don't know where he stands. I don't see it.
So Ryan Pollock in the past has been a good shot from the point guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? But he doesn't do much else. So I think he keeps that until some of the younger players are maybe ready to take over that spot.
There's not much on that second power play either, right? Talent-wise?
No. The first power play is really like your go-to.
Go-to is
and I really see Patrick Roy loading that first power play.
A minute 30 for that power play, and the other guys will get maybe 30 seconds.
Yeah, I agree with you there. So it's Dobson and Pollock on the power play. Take that with a second power play with a grain of salt. Ilya Sorokin, save percentage 908 last year. Goals against average 3.01. He was 23rd goals saved above expected, with Semyon Varlamov as his backup. 918 save percentage. Goals against average 2.6. 15th in goals saved above expected.
I think Sorokin's going to have a bounce back here. That 3.01 is going to go way down for next year. I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, tried to pull some fire under his bum by starting Varlamov more than he should.
You could tell we're parents, by the way.
Yeah.
Bum.
But I think he started Varlamov more than he should. I think Sorokin is a goalie who needs to play 60 to 65 games to get into his groove.
he played him more because they wanted to win, and Varlamov was making them win.
Was the hot hand, exactly.
And they almost made the playoffs. They didn't make it, or did they?
They made it.
They made the
They made
playoffs, but they got skunked in the first round. No?
Yeah. But it was primarily because of Varlamov's play, more so than Sorokin.
Yeah, but then Varlamov won the playoffs and Sorokin took his spot back. So, I listen. I don't think it's there's no debate here. Sorokin's going to get 70% of the starts on this team.
Well, I think NHL.com put up their fantasy, or even Daily Faceoff, put up their fantasy stuff, and they put as goalies, I think Sorokin was top 5 in the league for next year in their assessment. I saw one website had him 8th in the league. Whatever. Right? We're still talking about one of the elite players in this.
In his 4 seasons in the league, he never had goals against average higher than 2.4. He went to 2.99. He never had a save percentage of lower than 918. He went to 909.
So you know how we said goals save above expected is an important stat, right? That we use in order to qualify goalies. Another one that you guys should start looking at is quality start percentage. Mm-hmm. And like last year, he had a 58% quality start percentage. The year before that, 69. The year before that, 69. The year before that, 68. So it was an off year for Sorokin for sure. And I think it's more the outlier rather than the actual moving forward.
And prospects, honestly, when I filled up this list with prospects, I did not know any of them. I feel most of their prospects are playing in the NHL or developed into NHL players right now.
Well, there's Cole Eiserman, right?
Oh,
Drafted
yes,
this
is
year.
drafted,
That's their prolific prospect.
Yeah, which is true. I didn't put him in here. But yeah, he's gonna be the guy, right? That they're hoping is gonna put the puck behind the net when Barzal gives it to him.
Other than that,
But is there any other prospects you guys are really?
O'Dealius has a chance to be a pretty decent player in the NHL. Quinn Finley, Matthew Maggiua. I'm not crazy about any of these guys. However,
there was talk of Dufour. He was having a good AHL season last year. He came up, didn't do as well, but maybe he's only still 22.
Cole Eiserman, I think, is a big one that you guys already mentioned. But I just want to highlight the fact that
I think he was a big pickup for them this year.
He was a big pickup for them this year. No, other than that, I mean, there's not much that I could really say.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the team is not very confident, or at least the fans are not very confident in Lou's recent management of the team. Giving long-term contracts to bottom sixers is not the way to go necessarily. And that's how the team has been operating. So they're in a little bit of cap hell, and they're not that good of a team to be in cap hell. So that's the part that really hurts. However, in Dom's model, and you guys have anything else to say about the Islanders before we move on?
Last straw for Oliver Wahlstrom.
Oh, I think they're just giving him an extra season. I think his last straw was last year. I don't unless he really rips it out of the park and
So on the confidence meter, Dom's model had New York Islanders as the worst team. The fans have the least amount of confidence in their management.
New Yorkers, they expect the best.
They were 31st in the league in roster building, D- in cap management, D- in draft and development. Like everything, the vision is D-. Like they just don't see this turning into anything. However, Dom's model had them at 11th in off-season.
I agree. Listen, they got rid of their Clutterbuck and Martin were their bottom six players, and they replaced them with Duclair, who's a top six.
Yeah.
So
11th in Dom's model, addition by subtraction by getting rid of Clutterbuck and Martin, according to Dom. Much needed scoring depth with Duclair is a plus. And they also had a half decent draft with Cole Eiserman. If he could develop into maybe not Oliver Wahlstrom, that's a win. So
And Tsiplakov, who knows what to expect from him.
Tsiplakov might be a win as well. I mean, it's
there's a lot more questions with this team than answers, and we're hoping to get answers during training camp and beginning of the season.
Junior, why don't you lead us out of this episode?
All right, well, that does it for part 1 of the Metro Division. Feel free to give us a 5-star review, hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. Follow us on X at Partial Break Pod, Instagram at Partial Break Pod. We use Daily Faceoff at NHL.com, Hockey Prospecting, Money Puck, Frozen Tools, NHL.com. We said it already. Fantrax,
Dom's models from the Athletic.
And thank you to Sportira for our gear, as usual, at sportira.apparel on Instagram.
Happy birthday to my wife again, who will never listen to this podcast because she hates the sound of my voice.
Oh, social media, where can they follow us?
I said it. And I said it all. I said YouTube, Instagram.
We have
and TikTok.
Yes, we have a really cool little clip that we're going to post on the amount of times that Vince says the word listen.
Which today was not much.
No, I just didn't count it, but I heard it a bunch.
Not much. We listened to the whole
He
episode.
Don't worry, I edited it afterwards. I'm going to see it.
He
Have
made
a
a
good night,
concise
everyone.
effort to not say it, knowing that we made that video.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good week, everybody.